He was just 13, walking home from school with empty pockets and a bag of hope. But within minutes, he'd be inside a $100,000 car, saving a life, and unknowingly changing his own forever. It was a humid Tuesday afternoon in Atlanta, the kind of day where the sun felt heavier than usual and the air smelled like exhaust fumes and fried chicken from nearby food trucks. Malik Johnson, a 13-year-old boy with wide eyes and big dreams, was walking home alone, his sneakers worn out and his backpack slung low on one shoulder. Malik didn't have much. He lived with his single mother in a small apartment in a low-income neighborhood. His afternoons were spent helping her clean houses or watching over his little sister while she worked late shifts. But despite their struggles, Malik always carried himself with quiet dignity. He was smart, polite, and observant. He paid attention to the world around him. As he neared the intersection of Peachtree and 8th, Malik paused like he always did, waiting for the light to turn. Cars zipped by, BMWs, Teslas, Range Rovers, Atlanta's elite, going about their day without noticing the boy in the school uniform. Then, suddenly, SCRECH. A black Mercedes-Benz SL 550 swerved violently to the side, its tires kissing the curb before it rolled to a shaky stop. Traffic continued flowing around it. Some drivers honked. A couple of pedestrians glanced briefly, then kept walking. But Malik noticed something the others didn't. Through the tinted driver's side window, he saw the silhouette of a man, slumped forward, twitching slightly, one hand clutched to his chest. The man's head rolled to the side, eyes barely open. Most people would have assumed the driver was drunk or sleeping it off. But Malik's instincts kicked in. He dropped his backpack and ran toward the car, weaving through honking vehicles. "Hey, sir, are you okay?" he shouted, banging on the window. No answer. Malik tried the door, unlocked. He hesitated for half a second, then climbed in. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of leather and cologne. The driver was an older white man in a navy blue suit, beads of sweat dripping down his face, gasping for air. "Help! Chest hurts," he whispered. Malik's heart pounded. His palms were sweaty. He'd never been in a luxury car before, let alone next to a dying man. But instead of panicking, he took a deep breath. Then he reached for the phone sitting in the cup holder and dialed 911. "Hello, there's a man having a heart attack. He's in a black Mercedes on 8th and Peachtree. Please hurry." He didn't hang up. Instead, he did what he could remember from school health class. He leaned the man back, loosened his collar, kept him talking. "I'm Malik. Stay with me, okay? Help's on the way. Just keep breathing." 6 minutes felt like forever. But Malik didn't leave. He stayed right there, inside that car, holding a stranger's hand as sirens approached in the distance. That single moment, Malik choosing to act when no one else did, was the moment that would turn his whole world upside down. Inside the sleek black Mercedes, the temperature felt like it had dropped. The air conditioning was on full blast, but the man in the driver's seat, who would later be known as Richard Langston, was drenched in sweat, his skin pale, and his eyes glassy with fear. Malik's hands were trembling, but he didn't let panic take over. He glanced down at the phone, still pressed to his ear. The 911 dispatcher's voice came through clearly. "Okay, young man, stay calm. What's your name?" "Malik Johnson," he said quickly. "All right, Malik. You're doing great. Now listen carefully. Is the man conscious?" "Barely. He's breathing, but it's weak. He said he's having a heart attack." Malik had never been in a situation like this before. Most kids his age would have run away, afraid of getting blamed, or worse, misunderstood. But something inside Malik told him he couldn't just stand by. "Try to keep him talking," the dispatcher advised. "Talk to him, even if he can't answer. It helps keep him conscious." So Malik grabbed the man's hand, cold and clammy in his own. He spoke softly, like he'd seen nurses do on TV shows his mom watched late at night. "Hey, sir, I don't know your name, but I'm here. You're not alone, okay? Help is coming. Just hold on." The man blinked, his breathing shallow. Malik could see he was slipping. Instinctively, Malik looked around the dashboard and spotted a bottle of pills in the center console. Heart medication. Without skipping a beat, he read the label. It was nitroglycerin, used for chest pain. He had heard about it in a science class once. "Should I give him his medicine?" Malik asked the dispatcher. There was a pause. Yes, if you're sure it's for chest pain and not expired, place one under his tongue. Be very gentle. Malik carefully opened the bottle with shaky hands and slid a tablet under the man's tongue. He kept talking to him the entire time, rubbing his shoulder gently. Outside, a few people had started to gather. Some took videos. Some watched in silence. But still, no one stepped forward. Malik didn't care. Then came the sound that brought hope. Sirens. The ambulance pulled up to the curb, and within seconds, paramedics jumped out and surrounded the vehicle. One opened the driver's door, while another gently guided Malik out of the car. "Kid, you call this in?" one asked. "Yes, sir," Malik said, still catching his breath. I think he's having a heart attack. I gave him his meds." The paramedics worked quickly. One of them checked the man's vitals while another helped him onto a stretcher. As they loaded him into the ambulance, the lead medic turned to Malik, visibly impressed. "You did everything right," he said. "You might have just saved this man's life." Those words hit Malik like a wave. He didn't feel like a hero. He just did what he thought was right. Before the ambulance pulled away, one of the paramedics handed Malik a business card. "This is the man's name, Richard Langston. He's lucky you were there. Most kids would have walked away." Malik stood there for a moment, staring at the ambulance as it disappeared down the road. He didn't know it yet, but that simple act of bravery inside a stranger's car would soon change everything about his life, his future, his education, and his place in the world. And for the man in the Mercedes, that boy wasn't just a savior. He was a second chance. For the next 24 hours, Malik went back to his normal life, as normal as it could be after such a dramatic moment. That night, he and his mother sat quietly over dinner, just rice and boiled vegetables, while Malik replayed every second of the heart attack scene in his mind. He didn't mention the car, or the man's fancy suit, or the fact that he'd been in a luxury Mercedes-Benz. He didn't even mention the man's name, Richard Langston, written on the card in his pocket. He didn't think it mattered. But across town, in a private hospital room surrounded by machines and murmuring nurses, Richard Langston was wide awake and desperate to find the boy who saved him. Richard wasn't just any man. He was one of Atlanta's wealthiest real estate developers, known for owning high-rise towers, shopping centers, and entire neighborhoods. Richard had made a name and a fortune by playing hardball in business. People feared him. Some admired him. Most stayed out of his way. He was the kind of man who usually traveled with assistants and drivers. But that day, after a tense business meeting and a skipped lunch, Richard had insisted on driving himself, a rare decision that nearly cost him his life. Lying in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, he thought over and over again about that boy's face. The calm voice, the steady hands, the way he didn't leave, even when no one else stepped forward. "Who is he?" Richard asked the nurse. "We're not sure, sir. He left before police got his full name," she replied. That didn't sit right with Richard. He ordered his assistant to find the boy, check security cameras, call the 911 operator, go to the local schools. "I don't care how long it takes. I owe that boy everything." By the next afternoon, the search led to a small public school near the intersection. Teachers remembered a student named Malik Johnson being dismissed around the same time of the incident. One teacher recalled hearing a student say, "Malik saved some guy in a car yesterday." Within hours, Richard's black SUV pulled up in front of Malik's apartment building. When Malik opened the door and saw the same man, now wearing a gray jacket, slightly pale but smiling, he was confused. You're the man from the car." Richard gave a warm nod. "And you're the boy who refused to let me die." Malik stood frozen, unsure what to say. Behind him, his mother stepped forward, cautious and protective. Richard extended his hand to her. "Ma'am, your son saved my life. I came to thank him and to ask if I can sit with you for a moment." They invited him inside. The apartment was small but clean, with family photos taped to the wall and the smell of fried plantains lingering in the air. Richard didn't waste time. "I don't remember much," he admitted, "but I remember your boy's voice, the calm way he helped me, the fact that he stayed." Then he looked at Malik. "You didn't just save a life, Malik. You saved mine. And people like me, we don't forget that." What came next stunned both mother and son. Richard pulled out a folder from his bag. Inside were documents, scholarship offers, enrollment applications, and handwritten notes. I want to sponsor his education. Private school, university, all of it. And more than that, he paused, looking Malik in the eyes. I want to teach him what I know. Business, finance, real estate. Everything. Malik's mother tried to hold back tears. This wasn't a handout. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Richard continued, I see something in him. Something rare. Most kids would have frozen or run away. But he acted. That's leadership. That's courage. I built my fortune by recognizing talent early. And your son has it. Malik sat quietly, overwhelmed, but listening carefully. This man, this millionaire, was offering to change his life. And he was dead serious. The living room was silent for a few seconds after Richard made his offer. Malik sat still, unsure if he had heard correctly. His mother, Tanya Johnson, clutched a dish towel in her hands, tears welling up in her eyes, but not yet falling. This kind of thing didn't happen to families like theirs. Not in their neighborhood. Not in real life. Richard leaned forward in his seat. His tone softened, more personal. I wasn't always rich, he said. My father died when I was a teenager. My mom raised 3 kids on a waitress's salary. If someone hadn't helped me early on, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Now it's my turn to give that same chance to someone who truly deserves it. He turned to Malik. You didn't just save me, Malik. You inspired me. Malik finally spoke. I don't know anything about business. Richard chuckled gently. Neither did I when I started. But I can teach you. I can give you what no school book will. A seat at the table. Real decisions. Real lessons. All I ask is that you show up. Work hard. And promise me that one day you'll do the same for someone else. Malik nodded slowly. His eyes, still those of a child, carried the quiet strength of someone who had seen too much, too young. He didn't fully grasp the gravity of what was happening, but one thing was clear. His life would never be the same again. Over the next few weeks, Richard made good on every promise. He arranged for Malik to attend one of the best private schools in Atlanta, fully paid. He bought him a laptop, books, uniforms, and even got him a tutor to help catch up on advanced subjects. Malik had always been bright, but now he had tools to match his potential. But it didn't stop there. Richard began picking Malik up on weekends to shadow him during business meetings. At first, it was overwhelming. People in suits talking about millions of dollars, construction permits, zoning laws. But Malik didn't just sit quietly. He asked questions. He took notes. He listened. And Richard? He treated him with respect. Not like a charity case. Not like a child. But like a future leader. One day, while reviewing a development plan, Richard looked across the conference table and asked Malik, "What would you do with this property?" Malik nervously cleared his throat. "Well, there's already 2 malls nearby, so I wouldn't build another one. But there's no community center or library. Maybe something that helps people, not just sells to them." The room went silent. Then, slowly, Richard smiled. "That," he said, "is exactly the kind of thinking this city needs." Malik wasn't just learning business, he was learning purpose. Back at home, life was still simple. His mom kept working. His sister still ran around the apartment pretending to be a princess. But there was a new energy in their household. Hope. Every evening, Malik would come home with stories about Mr. Langston's meetings or new business terms he'd learned, like equity and leverage. His mom would listen, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying quietly when he wasn't looking. Because she knew her boy had been seen, chosen, lifted, and not because he asked for anything, but because he gave in a moment when most would walk away. 5 years had passed since the day a 13-year-old boy with a secondhand backpack saved a millionaire's life in a Mercedes. Now, at 18, Malik Johnson stood on the grand stage of a youth entrepreneurship conference in downtown Atlanta, wearing a crisp navy suit, polished shoes, and the kind of quiet confidence you can't buy. The massive auditorium was filled with business leaders, community organizers, students, and media outlets. A banner above the stage read, "Future Leaders of America, National Youth Impact Awards." Malik had just won the Young Visionary of the Year award for launching a nonprofit that helped underprivileged teens learn business skills, access mentorship, and receive seed funding for small ventures. His organization had already helped over 200 students, and tonight the spotlight was on him. He stepped up to the podium, glanced at the crowd, and paused for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice calm, strong, and clear. 5 years ago, I was just a kid walking home from school with holes in my shoes and no idea where my life was going. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections, but I had my heart, and I made a choice to help someone in need. The audience leaned in. That man turned out to be Mr. Richard Langston, one of the most successful businessmen in the country. But to me, he became more than that. He became my mentor, my teacher, my second father. He saw something in me when I didn't even know it existed. Cameras flashed. The room was quiet, hanging on his every word. He gave me a future, but he also taught me something I'll never forget. Real success isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you give back. In the front row, Richard Langston, now with graying hair and a proud, fatherly smile, watched with glassy eyes. He was no longer the stone-faced businessman the city had once known. Malik had changed him, too. That's why I started Next Chance, so kids like me, with no voice and no access, can be heard. So they can build their own futures. So they can lead with purpose. The room erupted in applause. Some people stood. Others wiped tears. But for Malik, this wasn't about recognition. It was about paying it forward. After the event, Richard walked up to Malik, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said, "You've done more at 18 than most do in a lifetime. I thought I was saving your future, but I didn't realize you were saving mine, too." Malik smiled. "You didn't just save my life, sir. You gave me the power to change lives." And with that, the boy who had once been overlooked, ignored, and underestimated became a symbol of what one moment of courage can do.